Hi, and welcome to The Bright Balloon, a podcast where I'm sharing bright ideas for your balloon business. My name is Sarah Meyer, and I'm a balloon business owner like you, and I love the creative side of what I do, but I really love the business side, which seems to be the part where most people struggle. So I'm here to help. Each week, I'm bringing you an episode full of bite-sized tips you can use to make improvements in your business. I want you to make more money, eliminate stress, and learn along with me as we grow our creative businesses together. Welcome to The Bright Balloon, presented by 17 Hats. Hello and welcome to another episode. Today I am chatting with Shelby from Sunny Day Event Co., and we are chatting about some of the ins and outs of being a single parent while running your balloon business. So I met Shelby at the Glow Retreat this past summer, and it became pretty clear to me that she has to deal with a lot of things that I have never even thought of because I am not a single parent. Things like factoring your babysitter fees into your pricing, things like being really strict about your site visits and your meeting times. So we get into a lot of tips that I think will be helpful even if you are not a single parent, but it will also give you a deeper appreciation for those in the balloon industry who are doing this alone. I take for granted that I have a partner who can just be at home with our daughter anytime I have to go and do a delivery. And I have family close by, which also leads to the convenient. But if that's not the case, then factoring in childcare is almost like factoring in another employee and the cost of doing business. So we are going to take a quick break to head over to the U-Glue hotline and then get into this interview with Shelby. Welcome to the U-Glue hotline, where we discuss great advice that sticks. Brought to you by Pro Tapes. If you have a question or some great advice to share, click the link in the show notes to call in and leave a voicemail.
Hi, my name is Heather, and I live in Tampa Bay, Florida, and my balloon company is called Poppin' Off Balloons at poppinoffballoons.com. I love the podcast. It's given me so much inspiration and information. The question I have for you is as far as invoicing customers. How detailed are you putting on the invoice? Are you just saying this job costs $500, here's the invoice? Or are you breaking it down like backdrop $200, balloons $200, add-ons, flower add-ons $50, foil add-ons $50? How detailed are you getting on the invoice? I'm not sure where customers are most happy wanting to see it broken down. And then I have a follow-up second question. How are you pricing those add-ons? The florals, the foils, that type of stuff, the bubble balloons. How are you determining how much to add for those? Are you doing $10? Are you doing $100? I'm still trying to figure that out, how exactly to price my add-ons. Thank you so much, Sarah. I love the podcast. Keep all the good stuff coming. I'm excited every Tuesday and listen first thing. Thanks. Bye.
Hey, Heather, thank you for calling in. I think this is a great question. My advice is to find a middle ground. I am not a fan of full event pricing, just saying it's $1,000 for everything. I definitely like when I can see an itemized invoice. I think customers like that as well. They like to know what they're paying for. But I think you can go too detailed in the other direction. I personally don't add every foil, every starburst, every piece of greenery. I don't itemize all of that out on my invoice. I just think it gets too nitpicky, and I think most people just don't care. And if I end up in a situation where I was going to use 5 foils, but I decided to use 4 foils, I don't want my customer thinking like, well, hey, I paid for those. Where are they? So I like to give myself a little bit of freedom in that area. Another reason why I itemize on my invoices is because some of my items are taxed and some of them are not. I don't think this is consistent in every state, but in Wisconsin, I have to charge sales tax on like a balloon arch, like an item, but I don't charge sales tax on service fees. So like delivery and installation is not taxed. So for that reason, I have to be able to kind of pick out which items are taxed and which are not. So I think a middle ground is really nice. I definitely list out what items people are getting, what my delivery fee is, what my installation fee is. That is all on the invoice. But I am not including super detailed specifics about how many foils, how many pieces of greenery, how many this, how many that. That is too detailed for me, and I think that gives your customers some opportunity to also negotiate down. Like, well, we don't want 10 foil balloons, we want 8. And like that is not a conversation I want to have. So I just price the balloon garland all as an installation, and I put the balloon garland onto the invoice. The balloon arch, if it's going to have foils on there, I am pricing that into the price of the balloon arch, and I'm putting it on the invoice. So I am definitely like in the middle. You also mentioned like add-ons like backdrops and greenery. For things like that, I typically do like a flat fee. So for greenery, I'll usually tack on like $50, and that's usually enough for quite a bit of profit in there, actually. I never have spent $50 on greenery upgrades. And a lot of times florists at weddings and stuff will just include those, have them added on to their invoice, and then they're just waiting for me to add them into the balloons. And backdrops and rentals like that, I don't rent those without balloons, so those are also kind of built into the price. Like if someone is getting a balloon arch, the cost of the arch is factored into the price of the balloon arch. I'm not going to sell like naked framework. I don't do that. I know some other people do, in which case you definitely want to have standalone rental prices. But for me, it kind of always comes with the balloons. So I have like a circle frame, but I'm not going to rent that without the balloons. So I just charge for the circle frame installation with balloons. So I am definitely in the middle. I know you could get more specific, you could get less specific. This has been a sweet spot for me and my customers. I think most people don't really care. They don't need to know super duper specific quantities of what you're using, but they want to see what they've paid for. So most of the time putting balloon arch, balloon bouquet, putting, general terms on your invoice, is good enough, and that works for me. Great question. Thanks for calling in. Pro Tapes is a leading manufacturer of specialty tape products like Pro Gaff, Pro Artist Tape, and our favorite balloon tape, U-Glue, which helps you create amazing balloon arrangements and decorations in less time. You can save 5% on U-Glue when you buy directly from Having a Party using code BRIGHT at checkout. Welcome to this episode, Shelby. I'm so excited to chat with you. We have actually met in person. You were just here for the Glow Retreat a couple months ago. So it's great to reconnect. Before we jump in, tell us about your business. Where are you? What do you do? What is the name of your company?
Yeah, the name of my company is Sunny Day Event Co. I am located in Lawrence, Kansas, which if you don't know where that is, it's west of Kansas City, like 30 minutes from the suburbs of Kansas City.
Is that mostly where you service? Do you do a lot of suburban stuff?
About half of my clients are in Kansas City. I really like being in Lawrence because like what we're going to talk about, like I have to hire sitters. So the more time I'm driving is the more I have to hire sitters for. So we'll talk about that. But
yeah, absolutely.
I really like staying in Lawrence as much as possible, but there's just more people in Kansas City. Lawrence is about like 100,000.
Okay. So not tiny.
It's bigger. Yeah. It's not small, but it's also not enormous. So yeah, I do a lot of organics. I really love organics because I'm a little bit newer, I guess. So that's all the rage right now.
How many years have you been in business?
Almost 2, just about 2, just shy under 2 years. Okay. So yeah, it's been really fun. I really like it a lot.
And is it just you? Do you have help? Do you have staff? What do you?
It's just me. Like if I really am strapped and need just a second set of hands, like on a job, I have a good friend of mine who will be like, I'll come help you, and I'll buy her like pizza or something like that. And
okay.
That's if I'm really strapped and really just need a second set of hands. Other than that, it is just me.
Yeah.
Doing everything. So
that's hard. Yeah. That's hard. Well, and it's extra hard because what we're going to chat about is that you are a single mother, which is mind-boggling to me. I mean, I am not a single mother and I'm barely surviving. So I just think it is so difficult. And the times where I'm running around like a crazy person, my husband is at home with my daughter. So I'm really excited to chat about this because I think it's something a lot of people either are dealing with or maybe avoiding starting their own business because it seems like something that you really can't overcome. So where do we want to start here? Let's talk about sitters.
Yeah. So one thing that has really, really come in handy, I know it's like real scary, but has really come in handy is Facebook groups. And so I've just gotten a real big network of sitters, one from Facebook groups, but also from friends that have children in the area. Because we just moved to Lawrence a little over 2 years ago. So I started this business pretty quickly after we moved here. And so I had to build up that network of sitters pretty quickly. And so I was like, I don't know, who am I going to get to watch this little human, you know?
Yeah.
And so I always say I was never an anxious person before I became a parent. And so I went on to Facebook groups. There's a mom's babysitting group specifically made for people to find babysitters. And so every once in a while, I'll make a post on there saying, hey, looking for occasional babysitters for such and such, my child. And then I come have a meeting with them and they come to my house. It's so like, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
Like having strangers come to my house and meet my child. And it blows my mind even still.
Well, and how old is yours?
She is 3, turning 4 in October.
Okay, so same. Mine is turning 4 at the end of September. And I think people who are older who are listening might be like, what are they talking about? But I think what is weird about this time frame right now is like my daughter was born a few weeks before COVID started.
Yeah.
So the first 2 years of her life, there was no need for a babysitter. Like no one went anywhere. Like it was just, there wasn't even school. There wasn't even daycare. So it was just, everyone was home and that was just kind of the norm. So to now go back to normal and have to be away, like I don't have a babysitter. We always call on my mom or our mother-in-law, but they're like an hour away. So for like a $2,000 job, that feels quote unquote, like worth it, even though I'm not paying them any money, but like, for an hour site visit, that's like really hard to ask my mom to drive an hour to sit with my daughter when she's not in school. And it's hard. Like it's really hard when you are either a single mom or your partner works the same hours that you do and like no one's home. So juggling kids, however you're doing it, is really hard, but specifically for you. And then the other thing that you have to factor in is pay. Like it's not like you just, you have a sitter and then like, that's great, everything's taken care of. So what even is the going rate in your area for a sitter?
It's like $15 to $18 an hour. So
it's insane. Like, I should just be a full-time babysitter. I mean, I would die, but like the money's good.
I know. And like, I always, want to make sure they're taken care of. I want to make sure they feel like they are happy, and I don't want to lose them as sitters if I like them. So I'm like, I'm going to pay them good, so it's hard. But yeah, exactly. My daughter was like 5 months before the pandemic, when the pandemic started. So, and it was just me and her. So we were just at home by ourselves and it was crazy. And my dad, this is a tangent. I apologize. My dad lives in my hometown, which is about 7 hours away. So he comes up as much as he can. And we try to factor in, like, if I have big jobs or lots of jobs that weekend, he'll try to come up for the weekend, but it doesn't always work.
It's hard. Well, he stayed
a lot of juggling.
He stayed at your house when you were here for the retreat, right? So that's even another thing that I've never really considered is like education and traveling and like going to conventions. Like even that's a really hard thing to leave your child for a week with someone that's not your partner. Like that's really hard.
Exactly. And like, I've been considering going to float, but again, tangent, my dad is a CPA and it's during tax season. So he can't come watch her. So I was like, I don't know if I can go.
Yeah.
So I'm just going back and forth on that. So it's a lot of juggling. And my calendar is just a mess because I'm like, okay, this person's watching Beckett this day. That's my daughter's name, Beckett. And this person's watching Beckett this time and this time and this time. And I have to keep everything organized,
right.
know?
Well, okay. And that leads into another thing that I want to talk about is like, actually, how do you do this? Because I feel like everything you're going to share is relevant to single parents, but also all of us, right? Everyone with kids, because it is so hard just juggling even where they are. So the two big things we're going to focus on are pay, like, because you have to, if you're paying a sitter, you are actually losing money. So when we say time is money, I've always kind of rolled my eyes at that because it's like, well, time is money, assuming that I'm not just sitting on my couch watching TV, which like I might be, like it's not always the same. It's not an equal trade-off. But in your case, when you are paying a sitter to be with your daughter, if you're not doing something that's generating income, you're actually losing money. So I want to chat about that and how you keep that straight and your pricing. And then the other thing you just mentioned, which was just like your systems of scheduling and keeping track of all this. So let's start there. Let's talk about, do you use calendars? Do you have a paper calendar? Like, how do you communicate with your sitters? Like, it's almost like running a staff in addition to your balloon business, right?
It really is. So I have like it's like a roster of sitters. I have a list of sitters that I regularly communicate with in my notes.
You're like the A team, and like sometimes you have to dip into the B team.
Pretty much. Like this girl I know is very reliable and will always be on time. And this girl is sometimes late and blah, 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 and sometimes cancels on me. So,
yeah, absolutely.
I mean, basically, yeah. And so I have like a list. Yeah. So I very much rely on a digital calendar, my Google Calendar. And I don't keep a paper calendar just because things change so much that I would just be constantly erasing, moving, whatever, that I wouldn't keep up. And so I keep a digital calendar, and either I'm going back and forth, like on the days that I have someone, because she goes to daycare very part-time during the week, so I can get some stuff done. And then for the weekends, like when she has a sitter, I'll put like an all-day event, like Emma's watching Beckett this day for this time period. And then like this is what my calendar looks like.
Oh my gosh, all color coded and stuff.
Yeah, it's just.
So what does that do to your actual bookings though? Are you pretty strict on like last minute bookings? Are you just like, I can't do it? Like,
yes, very much so. I like for grab and goes, like they have to, I have it so that sorry, I'm all over the place. Goodness gracious. So for grab and goes, they can't book more than, which is a little different because they're picking up from my house, but still like I'm all over the place, So grab and goes, they can't book more than like 4 days in advance. And then actual installations, I just don't have bandwidth to do it more than, like, I have to have at least
like a couple
2
weeks
or 3 weeks notice. I have to. Yeah. And because I most likely won't be able to get childcare if it's like something for that weekend.
I think that's almost good that you have a policy in place and you have to stick to it. Cause I find myself putting policies in place and then just breaking them all the time because I'm like, well, I said 3 days notice, but like I'm available, so I'll just do it, and then sometimes I'm putting myself in a bad situation because like I break my own rules all the time. But I think when you have policies in place that like are non-starters, you're just like, I can't do it. Like I can't be there. Do you ever bring her with?
I've only brought her with to strike on like 2 occasions. And it was when the sitter, like, because that was only when I had to have like a sitter watch her for setup and then a different sitter watch her for teardown. And the sitter that was watching her for teardown couldn't make it and like last minute. Yeah. And so I had to take her. I just couldn't find anyone to watch her.
I remember when I did a couple deliveries. Like I never did an install with her, but I've done a couple deliveries, and even that, like her in the van engine running. Like she's taking a nap. I'm like running to the front door to deliver a bouquet. Even that makes me so nervous. Like I have a very like strict, like I don't like when kids come along. Like if I hire a professional and their kid comes, I think that's very weird. I hate when I'm that person, but then there are those situations where you're just like, I have no choice. Like I had like something happened with the schedule or whatever. I have to do it. But I know some people have different opinions. Some people bring their kids along. I mean, ours are 4. That's very different. But some people I know start bringing their kids along to installs when they're like 7 or 8. Like they're an extra set of hands. Like, I don't know. I still think that's a little young. I think like 12, 13, but I saw McDonald's is hiring like, I swear to God, the sign was like 9-year-olds. I think it was like 12-year-olds. But for me, it was like, those are children. I can't believe you employ kids. But yeah, I think that's kind of the next step is like when they get to the point where they can actually help. I'm like, oh, I can't wait.
Yeah, it was stressful. And she was like, she's very social. So she was like, so I'm sure they didn't mind. Hopefully they didn't because she's 4. I don't know. But she was running up to everyone and being like, hi, I'm Beckett. How are you? What's your name? And so she's very social and she's very cute in my opinion. But I was just like so anxious the whole time and like, oh my gosh, I hope she's not bothering anybody.
No, I think a strike is much different than a setup.
It was so stressful. And she was like, she was insisting on popping the balloons. So I gave her like, it wasn't an X-Acto knife. It was like a Cricut. I used like one of those Cricut
like a weeder thing.
Pop balloons. Oh, shucks. And just was crazy. She was like popping the balloons like crazy. And they were probably like, what is this woman doing? Why is she letting this girl pop these balloons?
Like, why is her employee 4 years old?
Yeah, they probably thought I was nuts, but it was a time. So
yeah. Well, you got to do what you got to do in some situations.
Yeah.
Are you ready to take your balloon business to the next level? Look no further than Having a Party Wholesale, your ultimate destination for all things balloons. At Having a Party Wholesale, they're not just a distributor, they're your partner in success. With the latest and greatest in balloon innovations, they're on the cutting edge of new products that will wow your clients. From top brands like Tuftex, Jamar, Anagram, Ellie's, Premium Conwin, and more, they've got the widest selection to fuel your creativity. Elevate your balloon business with premium quality balloons and accessories that'll make every event unforgettable. Join the successful league of professional balloon artists who shop at havingaparty.com. Okay, so let's talk about finances because this obviously has a huge impact. You're obviously a little bit limited in how much you can work. You can't just work around the clock. You're also paying people. Like I said, it's almost like a staff to take care of your daughter. So you told me a story or a time where like you went to a site visit and the person just like didn't show up, but you were paying a sitter to be with your daughter. Like, how do you charge for your site visits in those situations?
Well, it was actually, I was going to take down for an event.
Oh, okay.
I was going to take down for an event and I showed up and no one was there. It was a wedding and just no one was there. It was like 11 o'clock at night on a Sunday and I had hired a sitter and there was no one there. So I like, what's going on?
Yeah. What do you do?
So I emailed the person the next morning and she said, oh, I'm so sorry. They told me that the wedding ended extremely early and didn't read the notes fully to contact you or something like that.
What kind of wedding ends extremely early? Sounds sad.
Well, I think I kind of mentioned this at the retreat. It was this wedding where they were making this arch thing. And it was hopefully they're not listening, but it was the jankiest thing I have ever seen in my life. It was like out of PVC pipe and duct tape. And it was
for balloon?
No, like I was putting balloons up. They ordered a tower.
It was totally separate. Okay.
It was totally separate. It was like their altar piece.
Okay.
The altar, end of altar thing.
Yeah.
And they made put PVC pipe over this thing and then draped it with white sheets.
Oh no.
And then put flowers on it. And I was like, I almost walked up to him and was like, I have some like hoops and stuff.
Yeah. Like, do you want to update this?
Do you want something else? I can go get it. But I didn't want to offend him because he was making it himself.
Oh gosh.
So it was just a very odd situation all around.
Sure.
And it was very different. So I wasn't super surprised that it ended super early because it was just very
Weird. Yeah.
different. And yeah, so I did pay the girl. She agreed to, I was originally going to pay her for like an hour and a half or 2 hours or something. And she was like, you can just pay me for an hour. So I was like, okay.
Yeah. But then did you have to go back a second time, or did you make them pay to return your stuff, or?
Well, they popped the balloons, and they just got a tower and like a column, and I put some balloons up on top of the columns in the space.
Okay.
Like on where sorry, where the columns meet the ceiling.
Okay.
So there were like balloons around the top of these columns. So really the only thing that's there is a column stand. And I just haven't gone and gotten it back yet because I'm like a little bitter.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd be like, oh, just keep it. I don't care.
Talk to me.
So what is it having the sitters factored into like pretty much all of your deliveries and installs? Are you charging more? Are you factoring in like you have to be more on top of it than I probably am? Cause I'm just like, meh, in that situation. It's like, oh, bummer. Yeah. I wasted some gas and a little bit of my own time, but you're wasting actual money. Like you had to pay someone for literally no reason. So what is your pricing and how do you keep track of all of that?
So I try really, I would say my pricing is a little bit higher than my competition in the area. It's probably not as high as it still should be, but it's so hard because we're in Kansas, like people like we're in the Midwest. People are like, oh, balloons, whatever.
Yeah. You're not going to charge New York City prices.
Exactly. There are people that will pay it, obviously. And it's just, I got to find them, And so I have a spreadsheet that I have broken down the pricing, how much everything costs to make, how much time it takes me. And so I know how much time and money it costs to make everything.
How long did that take you to come up with? Because I don't have that. I know I should.
While.
Interesting.
It took a while. And because I don't even have like a full pricing guide. I have pricing for everything, but I'm still working on like a pretty pricing guide,
Yeah.
That's
takes a long time to build that though.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's so hard. And one thing that kind of like softens the blow a little bit, I don't know if it probably makes no sense at all, or is like, Shelby, that's silly. But I have like displaced, like what I make this month is what I spend next month for my personal finances, So that softens the blow just a little bit. So I try to keep the babysitting budget within a certain amount. And so so I budget everything for next month. I create that budget this month from what I made this month, Does that make sense?
Yeah. So you're at least one paycheck, quote unquote, ahead. You're not hoping that the money comes in so you can pay your sitters. You already have that money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that softens the blow a little bit, and I have the money already and I have it budgeted, and I just try to keep all of that money budgeted that I have, or I try to keep all of my sitters.
Yeah.
Sorry, sometimes I lose my train of thought while I'm speaking,
No, that makes sense. And do you have a minimum? Because I would imagine that if someone wants $100 of balloons, you literally can't make money on that if you're paying a sitter, $20 and then you're driving an hour and you're making it and you're using the balloons. Like, what is your minimum or your average order?
So my average order, so for my minimum in Lawrence, my Lawrence minimum is, I think it's 250 or 300. I can't remember exactly. And then it goes up to twice as much, whatever my minimum for Lawrence is.
Yeah.
30 miles
Okay.
outside of
Oh, 30
Lawrence.
miles. So that's pretty close. So like 500 if
Yeah.
you're traveling. Yeah.
Yes.
Because then you're assuming your multiple hours of a sitter, and not even like just the
Exactly.
sitter that you're paying, but the time and the energy to even get the sitter in the first place. It's like that's all
Exactly.
factored in. Yeah.
Well, and like I had an inquiry just the other day, and like I feel bad, I feel bad saying no to these inquiries, but she wanted it. I call them just balloon blobs. They're just literally just a cluster of like
Oh, okay.
a foot or two of balloons. And she wanted like 3 balloon blobs. I sell them for like 25, $30 a pop. And she wanted 3 of them. And she wanted them delivered. And it was to middle of KCMO, which is like an hour away.
Yeah.
She just wanted 3 of them. And I was like, sorry, I have this minimum. And the delivery fees will be at least, I have a $3 a mile $3 a mile delivery free outside of Lawrence city limits. And I was like, the delivery fees alone will be like over $100. And she was like, oh, I don't think we can do that. And I always feel so bad, but it's like, I can't drive 2 hours just to deliver and make not even $100.
Yeah.
Like I'm not even taking home that much money,
Yeah.
like, cause
$100 minus the $30 you spent on your sitter.
Yeah, exactly.
And your gas and your time. Yeah. See, it's like, I'm not saying you're lucky by any means. I'm just saying that I think because you can't break your rules, because then you're literally losing money. I feel like you're doing a better job at some of the things that we all should do. Like we all should
that's true.
have those
That's
minimums.
True.
We should all charge for mileage. We should all charge for delivery. But sometimes it's like, oh, I'll just do it. It's not that big of a deal. But when you think about the actual like paying someone, because one day if your business grows, ideally you're not going to be paying a sitter, but you're going to be paying an employee. So kind of the same thing goes. And my mindset really shifted when I started paying someone to do some of my deliveries. And now all of a sudden it's not just me doing this delivery. It's like I'm paying her hourly to go and do this setup. So it's $100 setup and I'm paying her $100. Like we have a problem. So it changes. I think it's really easy to start a business, and it's really difficult to grow and sustain that profitability, but it almost feels like you have been forced to really, really look at your numbers and calculate that profit from the beginning because of your daughter, because of these sitters, because you don't have that built-in backup that a lot of us have.
Yeah. Or I just could get a rich husband eventually.
That's true. That could be your business plan.
That's my business plan.
Well, the other thing,
a husband to babysit.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. You're like, you don't have to have any money. You just have to be available on weekends.
Exactly.
Well, and eventually she will be in school full time. That's what I keep telling myself, that my daughter will be in school full time next year. But then summers still, like my mom was a teacher. So it never occurred to me that like childcare over the summer was an issue. But I'm like, what do people do? Like, it's so hard. There's summer camps, but they're hundreds of dollars, and there's daycare, but like there's not many in my town. So even if your kids are school age and you have a partner, like it's hard. It is hard to run a business and juggle kids, especially when they're under the age of 12 and they can't stay home alone.
Exactly. And like, just the biggest struggle like has been the weekends. And because that's when, and it's so heartbreaking when she's like, are you leaving? And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I'm so sorry. And that's like been the hardest.
Well, and that's a whole other thing that we didn't even touch on. Like, it's not necessarily financial. It's the cost of being away from your family every weekend. And I think as kids grow up, I'm going to struggle with that when they have soccer games or activities or whatever, those weekend things. It's not just like, oh, I'm out and they're home. It's like, I'm missing stuff. So that's where I'm a little bit more motivated to, twofold. I definitely want people who can do installs for me, but I really just am focusing on corporate, because most of those are Monday through Friday. Like most corporate events, they're not necessarily throwing a party so that their employees can come in on a Saturday. That's pretty not appreciated, I think. So a lot of corporate events are during the workday, which is kind of a bonus on focusing on those. But weddings, birthday parties, it's like Saturdays and Sundays forever.
And it's a bummer because I really enjoy like baby showers and those special fun little moments. And it's so hard because they're on the weekends. So that's a bummer because it's like, oh, shucks, I have to
Yeah. No, it's hard.
and all that stuff. Hiring a sitter, quote unquote, but.
At balloonsuite.com, we help you solve some of your biggest problems and help you reach your sales goals. One of the ways we do that is with our Balloon Suite blog. You can see the blog publicly on balloonsuite.com, but for our subscribers, we have a whole other blog with additional expertise and sales strategies that we see working. If you've ever wondered how to get into a university or how to make money at a mall without ending up in a lease that you don't want, or some of these more advanced topics within balloon decorating and running a balloon decorating business, then Balloon Suite is a place for you. Learn more and find out about our packages at balloonsuite.com.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming though, after 2 years, that even with all these obstacles and the extra work and the sitters and the money, that you're still able to run a profitable business. Otherwise, I'm assuming you wouldn't really be doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going pretty well. I mean, it's been a slow climb. It's been a slow rise, but I follow Profit First, and that's been extremely, extremely helpful.
Yeah.
I read the book when you recommended it, and that has been so helpful. And yeah, like some months I've cut it a little close, but
I think we all do. There are some months where you're just like, yikes, this isn't what June felt like when it was like people were throwing money at me. And now it's like, oh, it's a little slow.
And I think, and just something that particularly helps me myself is just the displaced, I don't even know what to call it.
Like the different checking accounts, how all your money's not in one pool.
No, what I make this month is what I spend next month,
Well, I was thinking about that too. That's really that's kind of how I pay myself. So I take my owner distribution money and it goes into my account, but I don't just spend all that. Basically, I kind of let that grow. I still pay myself a set amount each month, kind of like a salary. So some months I'm way over. But then that money, I'm not just taking it. And I'm not like, oh, I made 30 grand this month. I'm going to transfer all of that into our family checking account. It's like, I'm still going to take my salary. And then next month, if it slows down, there's a little bit extra in that pool of money. So I can kind of dip into it if I have a slow month or if I need to take time off or something. So yeah, it totally works for me too. I love the Profit First system. It's a cash flow system if people are not sure what we're talking about. But yeah, it was the first thing I ever read where it was like, set this much aside for taxes, set this much aside to pay yourself. This much is how much you should run your business on. Because before that, I was like, I have literally no idea. I'm just guessing at if I'm doing this well or not. I was so unsure. Yeah. It's been so helpful. And just all of Mike McCallowitz, Michalowicz. Yeah.
It's Michalowicz.
I know.
Has been extremely helpful. I know that's a separate issue.
No. I love everything he writes too.
It's so helpful.
It makes it easy. It makes it it takes hard stuff. And I feel like it dumbs it down into steps that I can actually do versus other business books. I'm just like, I don't know what you're talking about. And this is so boring.
That Donald Miller.
Donald Miller.
I think with the plane analogy.
Yeah. That one was a lot for me. That was Small Business Bible. And I was like, I cannot read this.
I gave up. But anyway, yeah, I would say it's been profitable. It's been going good and it's on a steady rise. It's on a climb and it's going good.
Very cool. Do you have any big next steps that you're goals that you're working towards? Do you ever see yourself getting out of your home? Do you have a van?
Yes.
What's kind of the next step for you?
I really, really want to get a van. So we actually, separate topic, tangent, kind of related. We have a small business development center related to our university here that's completely free. And
that's awesome.
It's amazing. And I go to them all the time, just have meetings with them and talk about marketing, talk about taxes, talk about all kinds of different topics. And I'm meeting with her in a couple of weeks just to talk about planning for saving up for a van, saving up for how to hire employees, stuff like that. And yeah, I know that's
really cool. I actually, when I was starting, cool. I took a class like that at my community college and I think it was $10. I was like, is this incorrect? How are you doing a class for $10? But during that class, I set up my LLC. I like filed the paperwork. I got it all done. So I think, colleges and community colleges are like, they have these business development centers, and a lot of times they are free or like dirt cheap because they just want people to succeed at business. They're very cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good tip.
It's like connected to the chamber or either that, or it's in the same building as like the Chamber of Commerce.
Okay. So more connections there too.
Remember. But it's just like looking for those different resources has been really helpful for me personally. But sorry, that was a side note. But yeah, so next step, I really want to get a van just because spend so much time coming back home to get the next delivery.
Right. What are you currently driving?
I have a big car. I have a Chevy Traverse.
Okay.
So it's a big, like it fits a lot, but I still I have to come back.
Fit
home.
Multiple orders. Yeah.
I just can't, I can fit quite a bit, but I still have to come back in between. And it just feels like I'm wasting time, So I really, and with hiring sitters, like it just feels like I'm
burning time
and money. And it's just, so I really want to get a van. That is something that I really want.
Yeah. No, vans are totally, they're totally a game changer.
Yeah.
My tip would be get one that has seats in the back. I took all of them out except the one bench seat because there will be a time you'll have to put your daughter in there, or there will be a time, like even as she gets older, I'm like, I don't know, like what if in a pinch I have to drop her off somewhere on my way? And like,
that's true.
The cargo vans, I mean, there's nothing, you cannot put a child in there. It's just like the front seat. And I don't think they're allowed to sit there until they're like, I don't know. Nowadays it feels like till they're 20 years old. It's like, you're not allowed to sit in the front seat ever.
Even just going and getting a U-Haul. I have to get a sitter to go get a U-Haul.
Right. Because you can't just like throw her in there and then leave your car at the lot. Yeah. That's so hard.
Yeah. Because we just moved I need to make better friends with my neighbors because they have a couple kids because we just moved into this house. And so I just haven't, made those connections quite yet. So I really need to make better relationships with my neighbors so that I can just be like, hey, can you take her while I
like
go get
10
this
minutes,
U-Haul
right? I'll be right back.
Yeah,
absolutely. I need to work on the sitter situation too, because I had this thought the other day, like my husband is really helpful on a job, but he can't help me if he's home with my daughter. So I realized instead of hiring more staff to do this like super sporadic seasonal installs, I would be better off finding a roster of sitters, like you said, so that my husband can come with and do some of the heavy lifting. So as odd as that sounds, one of my goals this year is to get a list of babysitters, like to finally like work it out, figure out how to get someone here, because to pay them $20 an hour is easier than paying and training someone to do balloons and bring them with. And like, it's just easier to have my husband come along because he kind of gets it. Yeah. But I didn't really have that shift until honestly a couple weeks ago. Like it was just like, wait, there's an easy solution to get someone who's strong and capable and available, So I'm definitely going to switch to the sitter route as well.
That's true because that's a good point because you can always, because sitters are like, they most of the time come with those skills already.
Right.
Like, it's like not like for balloons, you would have to completely retrain someone most of the time. I don't know. So.
Right. And sometimes like the vibe is weird. Like you can, if you have someone help you, but if it's like a weird, if you're not comfortable with them and they're like with you in a U-Haul, it's just like, I think that's uncomfortable as well. That's like much more of a difficult learning curve. It reminds me too of like when I was trying to hire help and my easiest solution was to hire help around the house. Like it was just like, I could hire someone to do balloons or I could hire someone to clean my toilets. Like there's already companies who are available tomorrow to start doing that. So that's what I did. So I hired out stuff in the house first and spent money there instead of spending money in my business because I was still able to do the business stuff. So I think it all counts. It's all on your plate and it's like however you can get the work handled. I think it works.
Like you have to do everything. So might as well. Yeah. That's
right. You might as well eliminate the tasks you really don't want to do, like cleaning bathrooms in my case.
Yeah, that's such a good point.
Cool. Well, let's wrap up. This has been so, I think, eye-opening. I think I don't really realize how easy I have it. I think there's some of us where we're just, there's such a spectrum.
Yeah.
There's always been people where it's like, I compare myself to someone not knowing that like, oh, this is their second career. They've already retired from a career with benefits and a pension. And also their husband makes $200,000. Oh, and their kids are in college. Like, yeah, let me compare myself to them. And it like makes no sense. So I think sometimes we forget, even though we're business owners, like we're people with things going on in our lives. And like right now with little kids, it's like, it's not the time for me to like ramp up and explode my business. I'm kind of in this holding pattern until they're, my daughter's a little bit more self-sufficient. But yeah, I mean, it is a struggle. And then you're in a different situation where you're really on your own and making it work and still running a profitable business, which is very admirable.
Oh, thanks. Everyone's situation is different. And it's just got to run your own race, as Bluey would say.
Absolutely. Oh, Bluey. That's one thing that we have that older parents didn't get to enjoy. Freaking Bluey is the best.
I love Bluey. Oh my gosh. It's such a good time.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on. This was such a nice conversation. It was good to connect with you again.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Real quick, where can people see pictures of your work and connect with you?
Yeah. So I am just on Instagram as Sunny Day Event Co. on Facebook.
And your work is beautiful. So people should head over there and check you
out.
Well, thank you so much for your time. It was good seeing you.
You too.
Thanks for listening. As usual, I tried to keep it bright and light. Our presenting sponsor is 17 Hats, the CRM I use to cut the chaos and manage my entire balloon business. From the lead capture form on my website to workflows and email templates, invoicing and grab-and-go garland automated bookings, it's all powered by 17 Hats, the best customer relationship management system for balloon businesses. There's even a 50% off coupon code waiting for you in the show notes wherever you're listening. I'll see you next week in another episode.